What is up, everybody? This is me. Certainly in the day I didn't get much sleep, but the only reason why I'm posting this so soon is because I just heard that Ultimate Warrior died at age 54. I find it interesting that the day he decides to be a little bit more involved in the WWE universe to show himself back up, be accepted into the Hall of Fame, he dies. Um, Everybody knows that him and Hulk Hogan hated each other. There was obviously a lot of beef between him and Vince McMahon and a lot of other wrestlers, especially him and Triple H. It's a bit fishy considering that all of a sudden, doctors don't know whatever it was that he died of, and he wasn't necessarily my favorite. I was always more of a Hulk Hogan fan, but he was uh, he was a respected known wrestler. He was very high energy, very exciting to watch when I was a kid. Now, reason why I say when I was a kid is because I don't watch pro wrestling anymore. I stopped watching pro wrestling when I found out the real reason why Chris Benoit died. Chris Benoit, everyone tries to say, oh, steroids. It had nothing to do with steroids. Like, yes, it's known that he was taking steroids. I mean, just look at his body. Look at that figure. That is a steroid build on him. So many professional wrestlers take it mostly to heal faster, not necessarily to get jacked up, because these guys, have shows, you know, throughout the entire year, and every day these guys got to be there. Uh, that took its toll on him, in the fact that after he died, he was known as Christopher Harvard, is a Chris Nowinski. Chris Nowinski was on the second season of Tough Enough. He was one of the runners-up, and they gave him a contract. He wrestled for about 2 years, and the reason why was forced to quit was because he kept suffering concussion after concussion. And one time he told Chris Benoit about it. Chris Benoit was like, "Oh yeah, I get those all the time." It got so bad to the point where even to this day, he wakes up and can't even remember his name. Doesn't know where he is. He started working for this sports science facility that specialized in brain trauma in athletes. So when Chris Benoit was uh, found dead, he waited till after he, all the phone calls in the press were harassing his Chris Benoit's father, and he finally calls him and says, "Listen, I was a friend of your son's. I want to. It would be okay if we study your son's brain." And his father was like, "That's a strange request, but okay, I think I know where you're going at this." When they studied his brain, the deterioration in his brain was so much. It was that of a 95-year-old man, to the point where the dementia he was suffering, he legally could not be held responsible for what he did. So you'd see it in football players as well. Anybody that suffers constant concussion after concussion after concussion, like Chris Benoit was. I mean, his finishing move was a flying headbutt, and then chair shots and falling down on your head. Obviously doesn't help. And Vince McMahon, when confronted with this, is like, "Oh yeah, if that was the truth, then he wouldn't have been able to buy plane tickets and be able to perform at the level that he did." And there's no science backing this up, and there is plenty of science backing that up. On top of that, a professional fighter, whether it's mixed martial arts or boxing, kickboxing, if a fighter gets knocked out, his license is suspended for 6 months. He has to go through a medical screening before he's even allowed to train again, because they can't have guys getting hurt. But professional wrestling is fake. Vince McMahon came out with the whole thing that, oh yeah, it's absolutely fake. That way he didn't have to go through having to pay for sanctions and medical screenings and stuff like that. So when pro wrestler gets knocked unconscious, which happens a lot more often than you guys think. But he gets a pat on the shoulder, says, "Okay, be on time for the house show in Atlanta tomorrow." After we just sold performed in front of a sold out crowd in Los Angeles. Uh, I can't support that. It's it's literally a business of death. Pro wrestler, the average life expectancy of a pro wrestler is 7% less than anybody walking down the street right now. That's that's pretty pathetic. Just because of your profession, uh, you know, you're more likely to die than a police officer or an infantryman or an Alaskan crab fisher, which is the most dangerous job in the world. When when you see these wrestlers get up there, talk about they just finished winning, the world title. They just made their way to the top. They talk about all the injuries they suffered and the sacrifices they've made. As, oh, I broke my neck, I broke my back, my arm, this, that, the other, and I'll do it again for all you fans. It's like, I'm not asking you to kill yourself, because now, when you think about it, what happened to Chris Benoit could easily happen to any of these other guys. So, what happened to Chris Benoit could easily happen to John Cena. Could happen to Randy Orton. Could happen to some of the TNA wrestlers. Samoa Joe's my favorite. Samoa Joe was the only one that matched up to Chris Benoit. As far as technique and ferocity, oh my goodness, man, Chris Benoit was unmatched. And after all this had happened, I understand because he because he killed his wife and son. That's why that's tragic. That's unforgivable. But at the same time, what was it that caused him to do that? I'm not making it. You know, it seems like I'm making excuses, but at the same time, uh, the the man had problems. It was a serious problem, and it was all because of the business that he loved. I can't support that anymore. But that's just me. It's like nobody held a gun to his head, told him to do that. Yeah, but like I said, what happened to him could easily happen to any of these other guys. And if, like, for people that is like, oh yeah, you love John Cena. Oh, my favorite wrestler John Cena, favorite wrestler CM Punk. Like, if you really love them, you'd stop watching them. Because if you stop watching them, then they won't be obliged to have to kill themselves for your entertainment. And it is entertaining. It absolutely is. But like I said, I just can't do that anymore. So, however, that's just me. It's my moral obligation as a human being to stop people from killing themselves. So, I'm done talking. Have a nice night.